Hey guys, it's Podge, and in today's video we're going to be going through all of the new gem information for all of the brand new skills and all of the rework skills coming in 3.4 Delve League. We've got a big list here, and it basically is saying that all of the information they've posted here is for the gems being level 20 with 20% quality as well. So we're going to go from right to left because the last one is a big one. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna talk about things like how they can be supported, what they can be used for, things like that. So let's get stuck into it anyway. So first up, we have Vicious Projectile support, and it says supported skills deal 10% increased physical damage. That's obviously for the 20% quality. Supported skills deal 49% more chaos damage over time, so great for poison builds or builds like Toxic Rain or Caustic Arrow now as well. It also does 49% more physical damage over time, which is insane for bleed builds. Anything bleed related, also, yeah, things like that. It says 49% more physical projectile attack damage, which is it's always had that, and also does 10% less projectile speed. This used to be called physical projectile attack damage, but obviously I think they just wanted to rename it because it's less of a mouthful as well. So it's great for any bow builds, things like that, and pretty much whatever you want to use it for, as long as you know, most benefiting now for, you know, physical and chaos damage builds that do damage over time. Anyway, next up is Withering Touch support, and that's a new support gem that's just coming this weekend, I guess. And it says supported skills have a 25% chance to inflict Withered on hit. Withered lasts for 2 seconds. Supported skills deal 10% increased chaos damage, and supported skills gain 29% of physical damage as extra chaos damage. So this is a great support actually, because, you know, usually it's going to save a lot of links because most people run the Wither spell with a spell totem support, and basically what Wither does is causes you to the enemy to take stacks of Wither, which makes it take increased chaos damage. But having it as a support gem means you actually can save a lot of links because you don't need to have this totem set up. And not only that, you know, it's going to be kind of like a stacking debuff that you can put on any skill. And, you know, the more that you tick it down, the more damage it's going to take. So it's almost going to be kind of like a poison effect, you know, how poison damage ramps as you know, hit it more frequently. So it's going to add that to, you know, whatever skill you want to use it for. I'm only disappointed in it because I just wish that it didn't have the attack skill, attack tag, because I can't see why they couldn't just make this usable for spells, things like Blade Vortex and, you know, things like that, where, you know, Poison Blade Vortex is a great, you know, build. So like, why not let this get in on that as well? You know, that doesn't make any sense to me, but it is what it is. I think it's still a great gem, you know, for any poison build or, you know, things like that. So definitely one to look out for this league for sure. Next up is the new reworked Caustic Arrow, and it's an attack projectile AoE now. Well, actually it always was AoE. Duration, chaos, and bow. It says fires an arrow which deals chaos damage in an area on impact and spreads caustic ground. Enemies standing on the caustic ground take chaos damage over time. Okay, so it converts 60% of fizz damage to chaos damage, which was always the case anyway. Deals 1,714.8 base chaos damage per second. That is, I think, the same equivalent as the old Caustic Arrow gem at level 28 for you know, an idea of how much it's been buffed this patch coming, which is huge, dude. That's absolutely massive, like a huge buff. Jesus Christ, that's nuts, dude. So base duration is 2 seconds, so obviously increased skill duration is going to benefit you greatly, dude. Modifiers to projectile damage also apply to the skill's damage over time. See, I don't think that was always the case. Yeah, I don't think that was always the case. +3 to radius and 10% increased area of effect, which is what you get from the quality. This, I think, is very... It's great. It's a great rework in terms that you know, it's a lot more strong now, right? But I wish they focused more on the degen side of the skill, as opposed to giving it like an AoE explosion. And I think it now scales from weapon damage, of course, because there's an AoE hit to it. So it's kind of one of those things, like, why would they take a degen skill and then add a hit bait like element to it? But I mean, I guess it gives more flexibility, but I just don't know how strong the AoE overlapping and stuff is going to be. But I guess it's one for everyone to try out anyway, so worth a look, right? Worth a shot. Anyway, next up we have Static Strike, and this one just got reworked as well. So this one I'm pretty damn excited for. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Okay. So the rework says it's now attack, melee, AoE, duration, lightning, and chaining. Jesus, so many tags, dude. Alright, so attack with a melee weapon, gaining a buff if you hit your target. While you have this buff, you'll frequently hit a number of nearby enemies with beams, dealing attack damage, which will be higher if the beams strike while you're moving. Okay, so if you're moving, it will do more damage than if you're standing still attacking something. You can stack the buff up to 3 times, each increasing the frequency with each strike. Okay, so it's going to be kind of, to me, it sounds like it's going to be more like a Herald of Thunder, like in a melee skill. In terms of, you know, you proc it and then you're walking along and, you know, like an auto bomber, you can just fucking zap everything around you as you're moving. I feel like that's what this is going to be like. But it says 145.6% of base damage. Base duration is 4 seconds, so obviously getting increased duration on that's going to be quite nice. 60% of physical damage converted to lightning damage, which is cool. 20% chance to shock enemies inbuilt is really nice, actually. +2 to melee range, so that's not going to be like a name lock. Well, hopefully not a name lock anymore. Beams hit every 0.4 seconds, so that's pretty sweet, actually. I think every 4 seconds, and then you take the debuff off, I think it will be every 0.28 seconds when you've got 3 stacks, which is pretty, like, not too bad. It's pretty rapid hitting. I don't know if having faster attacks or anything on that will actually decrease that time even more, but it's one of those things I guess we'll have to wait and see. Beam deals 54% less damage while stationary and 31% less damage while moving. So yeah, definitely best to just like punch and run, essentially. 6 maximum beam targets. I think it starts off at low levels as 4, so you can get 4 beams at once, and 10% increased buff beam frequency per stack. Yeah, so taking it down to 0.28 seconds on the beams. It's really nice change, actually. I'm actually really looking forward to trying it out at some point this league. For sure, dude. Summon Holy Relic. It's a minion spell. So it says, summons a Holy Relic that stays close to you. When you hit an enemy with an attack, the Holy Relic triggers a Nova that deals physical damage to enemies and grants life regeneration to allies. This life regeneration has a significantly higher value when applied to minions. The Relic's Nova spell has a short cooldown. I've actually seen this little relic, and it's the tiny little fucking, it looks like something out of StarCraft. It's so sick, dude. It's an awesome little pet. But it has more movement speed, so that's great, and 10% increased area of effect. So it's kind of nice anyway, but yeah, it just gives you a shitload of life regen. It's definitely a nice, like, a nice utility skill. I think it's going to help with leveling a lot, actually, because one thing summoners don't have a lot of, with terms of like zombies and specters and things, is survivability for their minions. They tend to get deleted quite quickly. So I think having this life regen is going to help a lot with leveling for minion builds, you know. So I'm pretty excited to see this. I'm also pretty excited to see what kind of MTX you can get for it. I don't know why, but just it's cool, trust me. Herald of Agony. This is an insane one. I think this is the one that has most people hyped for the league, right? So it's a minion, a spell, and it's a herald, so it's pretty crazy combination, to be honest. Anyway, grants a buff giving you more poison damage and a chance to inflict poison. I think it's 20% or something like that. When you poison an enemy while you have this buff, you gain virulence and summon an agony crawler minion, which is basically like a tiny scorpion if you haven't seen it already. It's pretty sweet, actually. that uses a projectile and area attacks. You will lose virulence over time at a rate which increases the more virulence you have. So it's kind of like a what would you call it? I can't think of the word. Ramping, yeah, like a ramping loss. Exponential loss and growth, I guess you could say. Anyway, the Agony Crawler will die when you have no virulence, which is kind of, you know, to be expected, right? There's a Pathfinder talent that lets you, well, a Pathfinder Ascendancy node that lets virulence decrease half as quickly, so it's really nice, actually. Anyway, maximum of one summoned Agony Crawler, which I think is cool. I'd like to see some uniques or something like eventually that would like allow you to have like a few of them. That would be so cool, dude, even if they did less damage, you know. Anyway, 20% increased minion movement speed. Grants 20% chance to poison on hit. Grants virulence when you poison an enemy. Grants 10% more poison damage, which is really nice. Agony Crawler has 3% increased attack speed, 19% increased damage, and 45 to 85% added physical damage per virulence. So you can get up to 50 stacks of virulence, which that's a shitload of damage, dude. 84 times 50, it's like 4,000 physical damage. Seems absurd, but I don't know. I'm pretty excited to build around this. There's also a lot of new minion passives on the tree, including ones that let you your minion attack speed and your minion damage scaling apply to you. So it's really nice. Like you get Scourge Claw for free basically now, which is freaking nuts, dude. So it'd be cool to do like a necromancer with this thing and just do like fucking some kind of poison build. I reckon it would be so fun, dude. Anyway, next up, Herald of Purity. We've covered a video on this kind of before, but let's have a look at the actual information on it. So it's a spell, a herald, a minion, and a duration. Grants a buff which adds physical damage to your spells and attacks. When you kill an enemy, when you have this buff, the skill will summon a Sentinel of Purity. Or if you already have the maximum number, it will refresh the duration and life of an existing one, which I think is huge. Like, that's great actually, because it's just self-perpetuating and you just keep going. As long as you're killing stuff, your minions are always going to be full health, they're just not going to die. Base duration is 12 seconds, so yeah, getting increased skill effect duration on these guys is going to be nuts. It's going to be really nice having them up just longer and longer. So you can have a maximum of 4 sentinels, which is great. 20% increased movement speed for minions, 38% more minion life. So they're going to be tanky boys. Adds 25 to 35 physical damage to attacks and spells. Doesn't seem like a lot, to be honest, but I don't know, we'll see. Oh, I think that might be per sentinel, maybe? Must be per sentinel, surely. Summon a Sentinel of Purity when you kill an enemy. And 20% chance to summon a Sentinel of Purity when you hit a unique enemy. Minions deal 95% more damage. That's freaking nuts, dude. Okay, so some good options for this are obviously Necromancer, because minions, by the way. You've got Guardian as well, which has also got some new Ascendancy nodes for this, which give them like a new ability and things like that. Give them massive AoE, things like that. So that's really, really nuts. And there's also Champion as well, which I think a lot of people are forgetting about. Champion is great because most of the buffs that champions give are for allies, which count towards minions. So champion summoners could actually be a thing with this build, which is pretty exciting actually. I would be keen to make a champion summoner at some point, for sure, dude. But in terms of scaling it, I think it's just going to be like things like AoE, you know, maybe even... I wouldn't say Ancestral Core would work on them, but if you were going to do like a pure Purity Herald focus build, I think you could probably only fit it in a 4-link before the reservation sort of becomes too much to have anything else, and then it just wouldn't be worth it, right? So it's definitely one to play around with, but until we actually get our hands on the league, we won't know exactly how good or how bad they are. But from the video footage I've seen, they don't look amazing, but I don't know, we'll see how they go. Anyway, up next, Dominating Blow. Oh yeah. Alright, so attack, minion, duration, melee. This is, I'm really excited to try this as well actually. Anyway, attacks the enemy with a melee strike, applying a debuff for a short duration. If a non-unique enemy dies while affected by the debuff, the enemy's corpse will be consumed and a sentinel of dominance with the same rarity, prefix, and suffix modifiers will be summoned for a longer secondary duration. So you can actually get rare and magic sentinels, which is pretty freaking sweet, because I wonder if, you know, you've got like a sentinel with, you know, like, what's it called? The little bubble thing, I can't think what it's called, you know, where, you know, you can stand inside it and not take damage. It's gonna be really kind of useful to have a few of these things, you know. And the only thing that disappoints me is that you can't have the rare and magic ones on bosses, which kind of sucks, but you get a few of them anyway, so it's not too bad. Anyway, deals 171.9% of base damage, which is quite a lot actually, like it's a lot of damage. Base duration is 1 second, so that'll be the debuff duration is 1 second. Base secondary duration is 20 seconds, which will be the length of time that the minions are up for. So definitely important to get as much skill effect duration as you can. So things like Necromancer are just going to get, you know, you get minion duration and things like that from the Ascendancy anyway. So Necromancer is going to have a good time with this, I think. +2 to melee range, so it's not name lock anymore, thank God. Well, you know, as much as it can be. Minions deal 10% increased damage. That's what you get from the quality, the 20% quality. Okay, so you can have a maximum of 9 summoned normal Sentinels of Dominance, so white mobs essentially. 3 magic ones, so they will have some mods that can, you know, apply to other people and whatnot, and 1 rare Sentinel of Dominance, which is pretty sweet actually, to have a big rare mob like following you in combat, especially if you can get something really good, like, I don't know, you know, those fireball things from you know, Temple of Solaris and that, the big fireball ribbons. that would be cool, something like that. Anyway, 10% chance to summon a normal Sentinel of Dominance when you hit a unique monster. Okay, so that's great. So you can actually use this skill on bosses, finally, dude. Because that was the biggest problem with Dominating Blow before, was, yeah, you basically had no way of using it on bosses. So it was kind of worthless in that sense. It was great for clearing, but just, yeah, not a good boss killer, unfortunately. But now it should be getting some use, so I'm excited to see some builds on it, hey, for sure. Alright, next up, Toxic Rain. Alright, we got that Chocolate Rain, boys. It's an attack, it's AoE, it's chaos, it's duration, it's projectile, and it's bow. Nice. Okay, fire a number of projectiles into the air that rain down around the targeted area, dealing damage to enemies that they hit and creating spores where they land. Each spore pod deals chaos damage over time to nearby enemies and lessens their movement speed, so it's got like a hinder effect, I guess. After a short duration, the pods burst, dealing area damage. Okay, so it converts 50% of your physical damage to chaos damage, which is really nice actually. It deals 283 base chaos damage per second, which doesn't sound like a lot considering of what Caustic Arrows was, but hey, who knows. Anyway, so deals 72.8% of base damage. I'm assuming that is the hit of the arrow, right? Anyway, base duration is 1 second. Definitely important to get increased duration on this skill for sure, dude. Fires 4 additional arrows, which is really nice actually, having the inbuilt extra projectiles. I think that's important for most skills these days, to just get as many free projectiles as they can, because, you know, you put GMP on a skill like this and it's going to do nothing. Especially since modifiers to projectile damage apply to this skill's damage over time effect. So it's important that, you know, you don't use GMP and stuff like that with this. I guess you could, but why would you, you know? It's probably going to be enough clearing, enough with just 5 projectiles. Anyway, 10% increased area of effect, which is what you get from the quality. And each spore pod applies 10% less movement speed to nearby enemies to a maximum of 60%, so it's quite a hefty slow. Chaos builds should be using this with probably, you know, your Wither And I reckon you could probably also get away with using, you know, Blight as well. Blight would be a good skill to use with this, because you could pretty much slow things into oblivion, I reckon. If you can get max 60% stacks on this and then start blighting something and slowing it down with Hinder, god damn, that would be pretty sweet for slowing and just crowd control and stuff, especially in parties if you were, you know, bossing or whatnot. So yeah, that's a pretty exciting skill actually. I'm really keen to try this one too. For sure, dude. Alright, next up, Scourge Arrow. Now this is the skill I want to try the most because it's the first channeling bow skill that we've had in the game. So it's a chaos attack, projectile of course, channeling and bow. Okay, so it says, channel this skill to draw an arrow and infuse it with chaos, gaining stages while it is held. I think it goes up to 5 stages. Release to fire a single piercing arrow, which drops a spore pod along its path for each stage reached while channeling. So you can have 5 spore pods essentially. Each spore pod will bloom, firing a nova of thorn arrows. Modifiers that cause additional projectiles to be fired will only apply to these thorn arrows. So I'm wondering, so obviously you probably will want to use GMP or something for it because you'll just get bulk projectiles. It'll just be crazy. You'll also want to stack projectile damage. Probably either pierce or chain would be really nice as well. Would be great actually. So 60% of physical damage converted to chaos damage. So it's quite a good conversion there for sure. Deals 49.1% of base damage. It does not sound like a lot at all, dude. What? Anyway. Fires 7 additional projectiles. That's from the Nova though, so it's quite nice. You'll end up getting, I think, 8 from the Nova. 85% more attack speed, which is important when you've got to channel the ability. 150% more damage with hits and ailments per stage. Okay, so it is more like a Blade Flurry in terms of, you know, the more damage per stage. I think that's really cool actually. Could this be the bow version of Blade Flurry that's just insanely overpowered? We'll see, I guess though, boys. Maximum 5 stages, and thorn arrows deal 50% less damage. That's pretty hefty damage penalty though, for sure. I'm wondering if with this, I know it doesn't have a duration tag, but I feel like maybe less duration might help in making the build smoother in terms of once you fire off the arrow, the spore pods, the time it takes for the spore pods to set up and explode. I mean, it's one to try for sure. I think the best ascendancies for this is going to be, depending on if you're going to scale it as a hit-based build or as a degen-based build. So you could turn this into a poison build very easily, and then you would play things like Trickster, Assassin, or a Pathfinder, which I think, you know, is all good. Also, Occultist is a good one maybe to use for this as well, because you'll get the explosions and things like that. But if you're going to go hit-based, I would say probably just go Deadeye with this, because from what I've seen of the video footage, the Nova projectiles don't travel very far to begin with, so I think getting as much projectile speed as possible will actually be a huge benefit to the skill's clearing capability. I don't know how it's going to go as a boss killer, because I'm wondering if it's going to have any kind of limitation on it in terms of the Nova's going to go off and then multiple projectiles from the Nova will be able to hit the one enemy, you know, kind of like a shotgunning thing, but I don't know. It's like, it's too hard to say, and it's one of those things that we're just going to have to wait and see, but I'm really, really hoping that this build isn't, this skill isn't going to suck for bossing, because this is probably what I'm going to start the league with, and if it's bad, oh god, what a waste of time that would be. Yikes. Anyway, next up, Smite, dude. Apparently this skill looks pretty strong, so I'm pretty excited for it too. So it's a lightning attack with an AoE tag, a duration, a melee, and an aura. So it's an aura skill, boys. Performs a main hand melee attack. Causes lightning damage to strike a targeted location or nearby enemy, dealing damage in an area. If the melee attack hits a target, that enemy can also be hit by the area damage. Cannot also be hit by the area damage. Sorry, my bad. If the skill hits an enemy, you gain an aura buff, granting you and your allies additional lightning damage for a duration. Requires a sword, axe, mace, staff, or unarmed. So you can do it unarmed if you would want to. Anyway, it deals 165.8% of base damage, which is very good and very strong. Base duration is 4 seconds. Okay, that's good then. So you probably want to get increased duration on this, I think, for sure, dude. 50% of physical damage converted to lightning damage. So yeah, fizz to lightning support for 100% conversion. I guess it'd be a good support for it. +6 to radius, 10% increased area of effect. I'm also thinking if you were to use increased area of effect on the gem, you would increase the area of effect of the lightning strikes and also the area effect of the radius of the aura. I think that would be a really good support for it if you were using it in a party. So it's got +2 to melee range, so it's not name lock. 20% less area damage. Aura grants 19% chance to shock and 12 to 220 added lightning damage. That's a fucking lot of lightning damage, dude. I think this could be very, very good for Elementalist, dude. This is this with Impulso and shit. Like, holy crap, dude. Could be pretty strong. Like, it's got good. It looks like it has good damage. I don't know how it's gonna go as a clear skill, because it seems like a single target ability. Obviously it's got AoE, but it feels like you're gonna have to burn down one mob before, you know, you kind of can clear the pack. But if you're using something like Impulses with it, then it's gonna be GG, easy. Seriously. So I'm pretty keen to take a look at this one as well at some point, this league, dude, for sure. Anyway, next up, second last one, Consecrated Path. It's a fire skill with attack, AoE, movement, duration, and melee. So it's a movement ability. That's pretty sweet, actually. Haven't had a movement ability in a while, since Charge Dash, I think, was the last one that came out. So pretty cool. Anyway, attacks with your main hand, slamming the ground at a targeted location. If there is an enemy close to the targeted location, you teleport to it from a short distance away before performing the slam. I can see desync being like a rip here, but probably not, I don't know. And additionally, create Consecrated Ground. Cannot be supported by multi-strike. Requires a sword, axe, mace, staff, or unarmed. Okay, so 50% of physical damage converted to fire damage. So it's, Chieftain could be cool with this, definitely. Inquisitor has benefits for Consecrated Ground, but I think you already get to generate Consecrated Ground from Inquisitor anyway. Not that anyone really uses that pathing, I don't think. Anyway, it deals 147.4% of base damage, and base duration is 4 seconds, so that'll be for the Consecrated Ground duration, I would imagine. 10% increased area of effect, and deals up to 20% more damage to closer targets. So if you have to teleport, it will do, you know, 20% less damage than if you don't have to teleport, I would imagine. Or, you know, so it's kind of got like a, what's it called, point blank effect on it, you know, a mini point blank on it, which is kind of nice. You know, obviously the closer, the more damage you do, so it's pretty sweet. This would be very nice with things like Chieftain or, you know, Inquisitor, pretty much any elemental scaling build that you can think of. So it's quite a nice skill. I'm pretty definitely excited to see it in action for sure. I wish there was like an announcement video of it to show it off a bit, but we'll see how it goes in the league. Last but not least, all right, let me see if I can zoom out a bit to so we can actually see it. Okay, Ancestral War Chief and Vile Ancestral War Chief. So normal Ancestral War Chief hasn't changed at all, but they have added Vile Ancestral War Chief, which is gonna be insane, dude, trust me. So it now summons an Ancestral Totem that will attack enemies with a powerful cascading slam while you're near it, which is a cascading slam. I'm thinking of Glacial Cascade in that it ripples outwards, but I don't know. If the enemies are far away, this slam will also include a leap to bring it closer. Being near it grants you more melee damage, so it's actually going to be a moving totem, dude, which is fucking nuts, like actually insane. So 20% increased totem damage. That is from the 20% quality. Can have up to 1 additional totem summoned at a time, so you can get 2 of them. I assumed, yeah, you can get 2 of them to begin with. Summon totem lasts 6 seconds, so increased duration would be also beneficial for this. Deals 122.8% of base damage, which is damn strong for a War Chief totem, dude. Summons a totem which uses this skill, 32% more melee damage while totem is active, 20% less attack speed, and 50% increased totem placement speed. So it's a slower hitting totem than the base Ancestral War Chief, but it's gonna hit nice and hard, and it's got a bigger and better slam on it. So I think the fact that it's going to be able to teleport is going to be so nice for bosses. You can just pop it, forget about it. It's just going to follow the boss around the room. Things like Azaro just going to get fucking chased by it. It's going to be pretty funny to watch, actually. But yeah, guys, I am pretty damn excited for this league. This War Chief is going to be pretty nuts as well, and I think that it's going to be used in pretty much every melee build ever. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the little information video, and I'm pretty keen for the new league. I hope you guys are too. I'm very interested to hear what kind of builds you guys are cooking up for yourselves. So if you want to leave a comment down below, let me know what you're thinking of playing this league and how you're gonna play it, like what ascendancy and stuff. I'd be really keen to find that, like to check it out as well. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and if you haven't subscribed already for more Path of Exile content, you should go ahead and do that.